Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Education Exploration Hub. I'm your host, Sophia.
And I'm Dylan. So happy to have you with us today.
Whether you're relaxing at home, riding the bus, or taking a quiet walk, thank you for spending this time practicing English with us.
Absolutely. It's always a great moment when we can learn English together.
Yes, it really is. And today's episode is a very special one. Today's topic is called If You Can't Speak English, Watch This.
This episode is especially for learners who feel stuck, learners who understand some English but feel nervous or unable to speak.
Maybe you know many words. Maybe you understand videos or books, but when it's time to speak, the words don't come out. Your mind suddenly becomes quiet. Yes, that moment can feel very frustrating.
Many learners experience this problem. And if you feel this way, please know something very important. You are not alone.
Millions of English learners around the world feel exactly the same way. Speaking a new language can feel scary sometimes, especially when you worry about making mistakes or when you feel shy speaking in front of others.
But today, we want to show you something encouraging. Yes, even if you feel like you cannot speak English right now, you are still learning. Your brain is still growing, and your speaking ability can improve step by step.
Before we begin, we want to remind everyone that this episode is designed for B1 level English learners. That means intermediate learners.
We'll speak clearly and naturally so you can understand and practice shadowing. If you are practicing shadowing, try repeating our sentences after you hear them. Copy the rhythm, pronunciation, and emotion.
Shadowing is one of the best ways to build speaking confidence. And if you enjoy learning with us, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Education Exploration Hub, and share it with friends who are learning English too.
Your support helps our English learning community grow. All right, Sophia, let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who studied English for a long time but still felt afraid to speak?
Oh yes, many times. Some learners have studied English for years. They know grammar, they know vocabulary, they can read books, they can watch movies, but when they try to speak, they feel nervous or their mind becomes blank.
Exactly. Why do you think that happens?
I think one reason is fear of making mistakes.
Yes, that is very common. Many learners worry that their English is not perfect, but real conversations are never perfect. Even native speakers make mistakes every day.
That's very true. Another reason learners struggle with speaking is lack of practice. They study English, but they don't speak English regularly.
That's an important point. Language is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it becomes weak. But when you use it regularly, it becomes stronger. So speaking practice is very important.
Even small practice can make a big difference.
Let's imagine a learner named Daniel. Daniel studies English every day. He reads articles, he watches English videos, but he almost never speaks.
Why not?
Because he feels embarrassed. He worries that his pronunciation sounds strange or that people might not understand him.
That situation happens to many learners. But the interesting thing is this. Daniel's English can improve quickly once he starts speaking regularly, even if his sentences are simple.
Yes, simple sentences are perfectly fine. For example, something like, I am learning English, or I enjoy watching English videos.
These sentences may seem small, but they are powerful steps. Every sentence builds speaking confidence, like building a small bridge between your thoughts and your voice.
So if you are listening because you feel like you cannot speak English, please don't give up. Your speaking ability is still developing, like a seed under the soil. With time, practice, and patience, that seed becomes a strong tree, and your English voice will grow too.
So, Dylan, let me ask you something. Why do some learners feel like they can understand English but still cannot speak it?
That is a very common situation. Someone might say, I understand English when I listen, or I can read English articles, but then they add, I can't speak English. That feeling can be very confusing.
I think one reason is the difference between passive skills and active skills.
That's interesting. Explain that.
Listening and reading are passive skills, meaning you receive the language, you understand information. But speaking is an active skill. You must produce the language. That requires a different kind of practice.
Exactly. It's like watching someone play the piano. You might understand the music, but playing the piano yourself requires practice, hours of practice. Speaking English works the same way. You need practice using your voice.
I once met a learner who told me something interesting. He said, "When I try to speak English, my brain feels slow."
That's a very honest description.
He understood English well when listening, but speaking felt difficult because his brain was still learning how to produce sentences.
That is completely normal. Speaking a new language requires coordination. Your brain must choose words, your mouth must pronounce them, and your mind must organize the sentence all at the same time. That can feel challenging at first, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes.
I think another reason learners feel stuck is overthinking. Many learners try to build perfect sentences in their mind before they say anything. They worry about grammar, pronunciation, sounding strange, and while they're thinking, the conversation continues.
Exactly. Then the learner feels even more nervous. But real conversations are not perfect. Native speakers also pause and change sentences. Sometimes we start a sentence and then correct ourselves. That is natural communication.
That is an important idea for learners to remember. The goal of communication is understanding, not perfection. For example, imagine someone saying, "Yesterday I go to market." The grammar is not perfect, but the meaning is clear. That is successful communication.
Exactly. And with practice, the sentence may later become, "Yesterday I went to the market." Improvement happens gradually.
Another important idea is speaking environment. If learners never use English in real conversations, their speaking ability grows slowly. But if they create opportunities to speak, their confidence grows faster, speaking with friends, joining language exchange groups, or practicing with online communities.
Even speaking to yourself can help. Many learners describe their daily activities in English, like saying, "Now I'm making coffee," or "Now I'm walking to the store." These small sentences train your brain to think in English.
And when your brain starts thinking in English, speaking becomes easier because translation becomes smaller. That's a very important moment, the moment when English begins to feel natural.
Dylan, let me ask you something. Do you remember the moment when speaking a new language started to feel easier?
Yes, I do. What changed? I stopped worrying about sounding perfect. I focused on sharing ideas, communication, instead of perfection.
And how did that change your speaking?
My sentences became more natural because I was relaxed. Relaxation helps language flow. Speaking confidence grows when pressure becomes smaller and when learners give themselves permission to make mistakes.
Absolutely. So if you are thinking, "I can understand English, but I can't speak," please remember your speaking ability is still developing, and development takes consistent, patient practice.
Speaking of practice, there's one simple technique that can help learners start speaking more easily. I'm talking about shadowing.
Ah, that's a powerful method. Shadowing is when you listen to English and repeat it right away, almost like you're speaking with the audio.
Exactly. Many language learners use shadowing to improve speaking rhythm and pronunciation. When you shadow, your brain practices producing English sounds, even if you don't fully understand every word. The important thing is to train your mouth and ears together.
Let's imagine a learner named Maria. Maria watches English videos every day. She understands many words, but she feels shy about speaking. One day, she decides to try shadowing. She listens to a short English conversation and repeats each sentence after hearing it.
At first, it feels slow and maybe a little awkward. Her pronunciation is not perfect, but she keeps practicing day after day. After a few weeks, something interesting happens. Her speaking becomes smoother, words come out faster, and her confidence grows.
That is the power of shadowing. It builds speaking ability through repetition, and it helps learners feel comfortable using their voice.
Another helpful habit is speaking about daily life. For example, a learner might say, "Today I woke up early. Then I made breakfast. After that, I watched an English video." These sentences may be simple, but they help your brain organize English naturally.
The goal is not to sound perfect. The goal is to practice expressing ideas. Many learners wait too long before speaking. They think they must learn more vocabulary first or study more grammar.
But speaking itself is a form of learning. Speaking teaches your brain how language works in real situations, and each conversation strengthens that skill.
I remember meeting a learner who said, "I'm waiting until my English is better before I speak."
That sounds logical, but it can slow progress because speaking helps English become better. It's like learning to swim. Reading about swimming is helpful, watching swimming videos is helpful, but eventually you must enter the water. That is when real learning happens.
Speaking English works the same way. You must enter the conversation. Even if your sentences are small, communication grows through experience.
What advice would you give to someone who feels too nervous to start speaking?
I would tell them to start with very small steps. Small steps feel less scary. For example, they could start by reading sentences out loud. Then they could try shadowing short conversations. Then they might try speaking simple sentences about their day. Over time, these small habits build confidence.
I think many learners forget to celebrate small progress. They focus only on what they cannot do. But speaking your first full sentence is progress. Asking a question in English is progress. Having a short conversation is progress. Each step moves you forward.
Language learning is a journey, and every journey begins with small steps.
Speaking of small steps, there's another habit that can help, the habit of thinking in English.
Yes, that is a very powerful skill. It can make speaking much easier.
Many learners translate everything in their minds. They first think in their native language, then they try to translate into English. That process can be slow and stressful, especially during conversations.
That's why learning to think directly in English can help. It makes communication faster and more natural. Thinking in English doesn't mean using difficult vocabulary. Simple words are better. While walking outside, you might think, "The weather is nice today," or "I see many people in the park."
These small thoughts train your brain. Over time, your mind becomes comfortable using English. Another helpful habit is describing what you see. In a cafe, you might think, "The cafe is busy. People are talking. Someone is drinking coffee." These observations build confidence.
Another helpful idea is practicing questions. Asking questions is a powerful conversation skill because questions keep conversations moving. Simple questions like, "Where are you from?" or "What do you like to do?"
These questions open the door to conversation, and when the other person answers, you gain time to think.
That's a clever strategy. It reduces pressure. Conversations become more relaxed, and relaxed conversations help language flow.
Do you think learners should wait until their English is perfect before speaking?
Definitely not. Perfection is not necessary for communication. If learners wait for perfect English, they may never begin speaking, and speaking is the key to improvement.
Exactly. Speaking teaches your brain how language works in real situations. Each conversation becomes practice, and practice builds confidence.
So if you feel like you cannot speak English right now, please remember that speaking is a skill you are still building. Every learner starts somewhere. Even confident speakers once felt unsure, but they kept practicing, and slowly their voices became stronger.
Now, let's take a moment for a quick word tour. We'll review some useful words from today's conversation with simple examples.
First word, confidence, believing in your ability. Example, practice helped me build confidence.
Make a mistake. To do something incorrectly. Example, it's okay to make mistakes.
Practice, repeating to improve. Example, daily practice helps you speak naturally.
Step by step. Improving gradually. Example, learn English step by step.
Feel nervous, feeling worried. Example, I felt nervous before my first conversation.
Speak out loud, using your voice. Example, reading out loud helps pronunciation.
Think in English, forming ideas directly. Example, thinking in English makes speaking faster.
Progress, improvement over time. Example, I see progress in my speaking.
Small steps, gradual improvements. Example, learning requires small steps.
Environment, the place or situation. Example, a friendly environment helps learners.
Speak naturally, communicate smoothly. Example, with practice, you will speak naturally.
Give yourself permission. Allow yourself to try. Example, give yourself permission to make mistakes.
Build a habit, do something regularly. Example, practice daily to build a habit.
Final phrase, find your voice. Express ideas confidently. Example, every learner deserves to find their voice.
Today, we talked about the feeling of I can't speak English, but we also explored an important truth. Speaking ability grows with practice, small steps, daily effort, and patience with yourself.
Remember, every confident speaker once started as a beginner. Your English journey is unique and your voice matters.
Before we finish, we'd love to hear from you. What is the biggest challenge when you try to speak English? Is it fear, vocabulary, or confidence? Write your answer in the comments. Your story might help another learner feel encouraged.
And if today's episode helped you, please like this video, subscribe to the Education Exploration Hub, and share it with friends learning English.
Learning together makes the journey easier.
See you next time on the Education Exploration Hub.